Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya to all. Wish you all a very happy Bhim Jayanti. We all know that Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar fought against the evils of untouchability and inequalities caused by the evil caste system of India. We all know with all the revolutionary efforts, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar tried to improve the quality of life with pride, equality and justice. In 19th century, England had a huge contrast between the poor, the needy people and the privileged wealthy people. It had many issues, but like Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, there were some reformers who questioned and demanded the reforms on every turn. I would like to throw some light on, not all, but some of the important reforms in Britain and compare it with what Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar gave us. Maternity leave and allowances. David Lloyd George introduced the National Insurance Law in 1911, which included few maternity health benefits. He was very prime moving force behind this law. But it took 64 years to become women's right to have maternity leaves and allowances, and the law came into force in 1975 in Britain. Any mother has to go through a lot of struggles during prenatal and the later stages of the pregnancy, and it's difficult to balance work and house. And that's why Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar introduced maternity bill well in advance than Britishers in 1928 and passed it in 1929 in Bombay Legislation Residency. Babasaheb Ambedkar passed this important law in India-wide when he was in Labour Minister in 1942 to 1946. Equal pay for equal work. Women shall be paid the same wages as men for same work. The equal pay and equal opportunity of work movement was first triggered in Ford sewing machine strike in 1968 and came into force in 1975. On the other hand, Dr. Babasaheb embodied Article 39D in Constitution, securing the equal pay for equal work regardless of the gender. Such was Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's vision that he felt the necessity of this law in 25 years before it came into action in Britain. Reduction of working hours. Robert Owen from Scotland and Tom Mann from Britain fought for limiting the working hours to 8 from 12 hours in early 19th century. Robert Owen was an industrialist and a progressive employer in Manchester. Upon observing the poor condition of the workers, he reduced the working hours to 8 from 12 and also stopped employing the children under the age 10. Robert Owen's famous slogan was 8 hours of labor, 8 hours of recreation and 8 hours of rest. The workers' exploitation was even worse in India. People used to work rigorously for 14 hours. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar reduced these working hours to 8 from 14 hours per day when he was Labour Minister in 1942. National Employment Exchange Act. Public Employment Exchange was established by social reformer Alsager Hayhill in 1871, and due to his efforts, the National Employment Exchange came into force in 1909. He started the first employment exchange in Soho, which was looking after public employment, immigration issues and industrial intelligence office. He also used to publish labor news to improve the communications between the job seekers. In India, National Employment Exchange was established by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar when he was the Labour Minister between 1942 to 46 and also secured the mechanism of settling labor issues. Voting rights for women, which is also called as suffragette movement. Chartist movement in 1838 to 48 fought for the voting rights of all men aged 21 years, but they did not ask or fought for the voting rights for women. Britain didn't have the voting rights for women until 1918, when Emmeline Pankhurst and her daughters and some other small group of women based in Manchester started suffragette movement in 1903, and in 1918 the Representation of People Act got passed and women over age 30 were able to vote. Later in 1928 the voting age was reduced to 21 years. On the other hand, in India, Dr. Babasaheb gave equal voting rights as a constitutional right in 1950. Human Trafficking and Bonded Labour Act. In Britain, this act came into force in 2003, whereas Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar abolished it in Article 23 in 1950, way long before Britain acted upon it. Divorce law. Divorce was introduced in 1923 and furthermore grounds were added in 1937 to this law. World War II caused more divorces, and it was not until 1969 the divorce reform law was introduced in England. Prior to this, the grounds for divorce were very less compared to what we can see now. Dr. Babasaheb introduced the divorce law as part of Hindu Code Bill in 1955 to 56, and he set free the Indian woman from the clause of evil-mannered, degrading sets of laws. Pension Act. The initial Old Age Pension Act was passed in 1908 on very fewer terms. It got revamped in 1928 and big changes were introduced by Sir William Beveridge in 1948 along with the birth of National Health Services in England. Dr. Babasaheb introduced pension law in India in 1946 when he was Labour Minister in India. The immense knowledge of the world history and the laws in the progressive countries of the world helped Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar to build a visionary and intellectual mindset. He thought wellness of everyone in the country and provided the revolutionary and the great economical policies which abolished the untouchability and ensured the equality for all Indian citizens irrespective of the gender, caste, creed, religion and the race. And that's why we all proudly say Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar as the father of the modern India. Jai Bhim, Jai Bharat.